Hello everybody, my name is King Mitch and welcome back to another video. I finally saw the Five Nights at Freddy's movie in my country and this is gonna be my review. So before we start, big disclaimer, there are gonna be major spoilers, like a lot of major spoilers. So if you are planning to see it in the future or very soon, please click off. If you've already seen it and you're here for my opinion, or you're not planning to and you're here to watch, you can stay. Wait for you guys to leave. Pretty sure they've all left by now. If you haven't, fair game. So let's first just get the plot laid out and then I'll talk about my opinions and a bunch of other stuff that I realized. So basically the plot of this film is we follow Mike Schmidt, who is a mall cop, and he lives with his little sister Abby, and he gets fired from his job. We already saw that. He beats up a guy, which he shouldn't have, and he applies for a new job, which is obviously the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and he works there, obviously 5 nights, and he realizes that something's not right. Meanwhile, there is a character, Vanessa, who is trying to tell him about everything that happened there and what's going to happen if he doesn't, get his head in. Meanwhile, in the background, away from the pizzeria, he's having struggles trying to financially be stable and take care of his younger sister, which causes their aunt to step in and try and take legal custody of Abby. It shows us that he has either like depression, anxiety, or PTSD, and we know this because when he was 12 years old, his younger brother Garrett Schmidt got kidnapped by someone, and for the whole film, basically it's kind of like a little side thing of him trying to find out who took my brother, who kidnapped my brother. So that's basically the plot laid out in like summary. In depth, obviously, we see a lot of the trailer where this group of people try to rob or destroy the Fazbear Pizzeria, and we see them all get annihilated, dead, gone. And I'll get more into that and the details of it with the fear factor and the horror. And also in the background, who hired Mike Schmidt was actually William Afton, who is known as Steve Raglan as his secret alias. We find out that Vanessa, who is the police officer trying to help Mike, is actually an Afton. She is William Afton's daughter. Thing I want to say is, if you're planning to see it and you're watching this just so you can get all the big stuff out the way and you're just wanting to watch it for the fun, this has nothing to do with the FNAF games. There are elements and secrets on the FNAF games. It is not the FNAF timeline and lore at all. Michael Schmidt is not Michael Afton. Abby could be baby, can't be. I'll get more into that. The films took more inspiration from the books. I don't have the book with me, I could have shown it, but it's actually taken inspiration from a lot of the books, which is Silver Eyes and the Fazbear Frights ones. If you have the graphic novel of the Silver Eyes and you look at the scene from the film and a page from the book, identical, some scenes identical one-to-one, identical. So please, if you are going to watch this, please don't be like me and think it's about the games. Scott did say in an interview a couple of like early days of FNAF that it's actually based on the books. They are going to be based on the 3 books, I think, of Silver Eyes, the Twisted Ones, and the Fourth Closet. So do keep that in mind. Next thing I want to talk about is the pacing. The pacing for an hour 50 film, which I thought a little while ago when I found out the runtime, I thought deep down, I was like, it's quite short. I want it to be longer. But I think after sitting down in the theater and actually watching it on the big screen, I think an hour 50, almost 2 hours, is the perfect runtime for your first FNAF film. It's a good runtime. The only problem I had with it, and this is my first con, is the first part is a bit dragged out. So you don't see any activity from the establishment or anything. I think 40 minutes in, 50 minutes in, I might be wrong, which is fine because it is the first film and they're trying to get it started. They're trying to set everything up. You know, they're getting all the characters set up. They're trying to tell you the story, which was good. But me and my girlfriend both agreed that at some points it felt dragged out. I went to go see it with my partner. We both thought it was a bit dragged out, and we thought some scenes didn't have to be in the film. Some scenes should have been in the film. But overall, I think after having some time to think, the pacing is very good. Now this goes into the next part on the characters and the soundtrack and all the work. Phenomenal. The characters, the actors did an amazing job of making these characters come to life. Josh as Mike, amazing. Piper as Abby, amazing. Vanessa, I forgot the actor's name. The babysitter, who actually find out was one of the people destroying the place, sort of like a double agent trying to get insight on the family. Amazing for what she had. One performance in particular that actually stuck out to me was one of the kids, and I'm not talking about Garrett. I'm not talking about one of the 5 dead children. Meanwhile, those kids did very well on what they had to do. The one who plays, big spoiler kind of, the one who plays Golden Freddy, amazing. He did phenomenal in my opinion. That was probably the best acting I've seen from a kid in a film like that. He gave this sort of, you knew who it was, so you felt uncomfortable that this kid is acting so nice to Abby. There's a couple of scenes with them interacting, and I'll get more into that as I talk more in depth of the film. I'm just going by chronological order. I can't remember certain scenes, but he did amazing. You know, I will get more into it as I go on, but it was just amazing. Soundtrack as well, good, so good. At the end of the credits, yes, they did play the Five Nights at Freddy song by the Living Tombstone. My whole theater started singing. I didn't. If it was me from like 6 years ago, maybe. But me and my girlfriend sat there and were like, okay. We were kind of cringed. We were cringing. We were very much cringing. But, you know, when a film like this has come into your childhood, it's like, I understand. They also played the Puppets music box in the credits, kind of hinting at maybe something, or maybe just to, like, you know, fill in music. But no, every soundtrack for everything was good. The intro soundtrack, oh, it was so good. Probably the next thing is Easter eggs and theories, which I will talk about. Easter eggs, riddled with Easter eggs. Easter eggs from the games, Easter eggs from the books, Easter eggs from a bunch of other stuff to do with FNAF, like a lot. The first one that was very noticeable, I didn't notice it, but one of my friends who went to go see it did, is if you're an OG fan like me and you remember the first theory that came out about FNAF, which was about the 5th animatronic named Sparky the dog. There is actually a scene in the film in one of the back rooms where they have a Sparky the dog animatronic. I'm not joking, it is there. Another one is Shadow Freddy is on one of the cameras near the start of the film, I think. He kind of like flashes up. There's the infamous line of "It's me" on a mirror when the pizzeria's like lights are flashing and Mike's there like this. There's a scene where it flashes "It's me" on a mirror and it's been like drawn in. Obviously we know Corey X. Kenshin was in the game, in the film as a cab driver. Matt Pat from Game and Film Theory is in the film. Yes, he plays a waiter at a restaurant at, you guessed it, named Sparky's. And he plays a character called Ness, who is actually a little nitpick at one of his theories that he made a long time ago. I don't know what it was about, but apparently it was making fun of that. And yes, he does say the infamous line, "It's a theory." He didn't make it cringy, which was good. It wasn't like, "It's a theory." It was well executed. Both of their performances as cameos, very well done. We were meant to get Markiplier as one of the starting security guards who actually die. Obviously with his scheduling conflicts with Iron Lung, he couldn't obviously make it, which was fine because it doesn't take away from the film or the other performances. There's a part in the end credits scene where at the very, very, very end, where the credits are finally finishing, there's a part where if you've played the FNAF 2 minigames, you'll know the whole save them minigames and the find me minigames. There is actually a secret where that voice comes up and it's saying COME, and it's saying "come find me." People think it's Garrett trying to talk to Michael. People think it's William trying to talk to Vanessa saying, "Hey, I'm alive, I'm here, someone help." People think it's teasing at the next film saying, "Oh, they know he's there." I just think it's a little thing for the next film, you know, like, "Oh, I'm here." Or maybe it's Garrett trying to say, "It's me, come find me." I don't really know. The next part is the comedy and fear factor. The comedy factor of this film is nice. It's lighthearted. You know, it's calming to see some scenes where you see Abby and Michael getting together as siblings, and you know they're laughing and they're having a good time. And you know when Balloon Boy would, like, this little figurine would scare you, you know, you'd laugh, you get a chuckle. There's lines in the film, there's characters in the film that are funny. There's this guy who I'm guessing is a lawyer, his name's Doug. He's trying to help the aunt get custody of Abby. He's there and he's like quite timid and he's like, "I don't want to be here." He was funny. The lines that were just funny. There was a scene back to Mike trying to get a job. He's like, "How's the pay?" And immediately snap back, William just goes, "Not great." And that was probably the funniest thing. Just not great, but it's a job. The only problem I have is the fear factor. I know it's a PG-13 film, and this is my first nitpick, and here we go. Oh my god, here he goes again. I know it was a PG-13 film. I just wish it was PG-16. I wish there was a little bit more horror, or not gore, but I wish there was more brutality to stuff. You know, I wish there was more blood. I wish there was more action on the sort of characters. So the comedy factor really outweighed the fear, and when you hear a horror film, you want it to kind of balance. This film really tried to balance it, and it just didn't work. There are some scenes where the fear takes up. There are scenes where the comedy switches it up. I wasn't a big fan of not enough fear being in it, but that's just me. Maybe because I just went in and I was like, "This is a horror film. This is a horror film." And, you know, I couldn't think about that. There is one thing I will talk about which kind of falls into the comedy thing, and this is my nitpicking, complaining part, and I'm going to call it, in my opinion, the dreaded scene. This for me was, I not gonna lie, when I saw it, before I had time to think, now I've had time to think and I have different views on it. When I saw it, I wanted to stand up and leave. And the scene is the building a fort montage. So there's a scene where Mike brings Abby with him to his work, and she sneaks up on the animatronics and she starts screaming. Mike thinks she's being attacked, I've got to stop it, when you find out the animatronics are just tickling her and they're having fun, and you know, she's a kid, you know, we just want to have fun. And you know, obviously the kids are in the suits, so you know, they're still children deep down. And there's a scene where Mike finally realizes these are kids and Abby's been drawing them, so she knows them but also doesn't. That's where this will get into more, it's a bit confusing. And they have a little montage where they build a blanket fort, and it was it gave me the vibe of Together We Are FNAF, you know, that meme going around at the moment. It gave me that reaction, and I kind of had mixed thoughts about it. There's a scene where they lift up a table and Abby goes, "You did it!" And Bonnie like sits there and he falls back and he lands, and then she's like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" And he just goes like this. It just shows a shot of his hand like doing a thumbs up, and I saw that, I was like, we just had like a Disney Channel moment. And me and my girlfriend looked at each other in that scene, we're like, let's leave. We didn't. We saw how it played out, and I think that's the scene that really threw me off. After some thinking about it, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, you know. I've heard people defend it. I've heard them say, they're still kids deep down. We need to accept that. Yes, it's... but they're kids. Kids are going to do that. You know, they're going to mess around. It's to show that they're trying to, you know, make her happy. I've seen another theory as well being like, oh, the reason they did that is because they're trying to gain Abby's trust, so they can switch up on her, which does happen in the film. And this is where I'm going to start thickening the plot out for you more. Back to the plot. So after this happens, Mike has a realization where he's like, oh, my dreams that I have about my brother being taken every night, it's more vivid when I'm here. So, you know, he falls asleep and he's like, he talks to the dead kids and he's like, I need your help, I need your help. And they're like, we'll help you find the man who took him if you give us Abby. And the tone of the film and these characters change, because, you know, you see these kids and they're like, oh, that's cute, how cute. And then you hear them say, we want your sister. We want to make her one of us. And the tone changes and you're like, whoa, these kids are bad. And you know, he's obvious in the moment, he's like, yes, I'll do anything. And then he realizes his mistake, and as the scene carries on, Golden Freddy actually comes to Mike's house where he's at work. The aunt is looking after Abby, and Golden Freddy actually takes their aunt out. And this is where the best performance I saw of Golden Freddy come from, is Abby walks out and she's like, oh, Freddy! And all you hear is the kid. His one line is just, not Freddy. And that is the most bone-chilling thing you can hear. And he's like, come on, the others are waiting for you. Let's go to the pizzeria. So they go to the pizzeria, and she goes to hang out with her friends. And then Chica is like, oh, come on, I've got to show you something. Just come to the back room. At this point, Michael is in a police car and he's racing to the pizzeria and he's trying to save her. And she gets lifted up in the back room from Chica, and actually sitting there is a spring-lock suit of what looks like Ella from one of the Fazbear Frights books, or Baby. I don't know if it's movie Baby or it's book Ella, and Chica's trying to put her in it. Obviously Michael saves her and whatnot, and the rest of the scene plays out, and this is where we finally see William Afton as Springbonnie, and we find out quite early that it's that reveal. Vanessa gives Mike a picture and he's like, this is William Afton, he's my father. And he actually walks in, amazing entrance, he's like slumped over, he's big, he's tall, and he beats the ever-living shit out of Michael, I will admit. And then we see Vanessa step in, and she's got a gun pointed at William, and she's like, I'll shoot, and she does, and he's like, oh, and then he stabs her. He literally just dead, gone him. And she's on the ground, she passes out, and then while all this is happening, Abby comes to a realization that these animatronics are controlled by whatever they believe. And obviously in the trailers we see this giant wall of photos and pictures, and this is a very big part of the movie. The photos actually mean something, and what she does is she scribbles a photo real quick, and she's like rips off this old one where it's like Springbonnie holding 5 kids' hands being like, oh, we're all happy and joyous. She rips that off and she sticks on the wall Springbonnie with a knife and dead kids. A big power surge happens in the restaurant, and all the animatronics like static and whatnot, and then they finally come to realize that who killed them is right in front of them. And they all turn on him, and he's like, what are you doing? I made you. I know what I can and cannot do. I'm in control, not you. And then Chica's cupcake goes after him and bites him, and he rips it off, and it exposes the spring locks. And all of a sudden, he gets stabbed. And he realizes this, and he's like, oh. And at this point, he's got the mask off, and he's like, oh. And they're all happening, and he's getting spring locked, and he's dying. And then he puts the mask back on, and he says the famous line, I always come back. And he sticks it on as he's having his last breath. And then once again, what I said about the Silver Eyes books happens, an exact scene correlation. The animatronics pick him up and they drag him all the way from his death to the back room to store him away for 30 years to rot. And then obviously he dies, and they like drag him away, and the 3 Michael, Abby, and Vanessa got out. They send Vanessa to the hospital, and then the rest of the film plays out, blah 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 blah. And then there's an end scene where we see Springbonnie, William Afton in the suit, still like spasming and whatnot, like his nerves and muscles obviously being crushed, so he's like spasming and whatnot, and he's doing this, like he's asking for help, and you just see Golden Freddy at the door, and I think he shuts it, I can't really remember, but the door shuts, goes black, and the credits roll. And that is Five Nights at Freddy's. Now I want to go back to the gore and the whole PG-13 rating on what I was talking about, and then we will have my final rating. So obviously I said how I wish it was PG-16 and I wish there was more gore and blood, which is true. There are 2 cons that I have, and the first one is about the Springlock scene. And the Springlock scene, in my opinion, was very underwhelming. I will admit, it was the most underwhelming big climax of the film. I was hoping there'd be more. Obviously I wasn't hoping for like guts everywhere and blood and death, gore, you know, I wasn't hoping for that, but I was hoping for a bit more. You know, there was like bone crushing sounds and whatnot, and there was like a slow impale, and there was like sort of blood, but I wish there was just a bit more. Like I wish he was like choking on like blood, because you know he's been squished, his lungs have been punctured, so you know he's gonna fill up with blood. I was hoping that, you know, there'd be like a little bit of screaming. You know, there's that whole thing where like, oh, his head's being springtrapped, so he can't scream because his vocal cords have been crushed, but he didn't have the mask on at the time, so I was hoping for a bit of like yelping and, you know, just a bit more. But I understand why they kind of did it, and they did it quite slow to show the process, which will admit that is more painful to see, but I did kind of wish for a sort of more fluid, quick, so you had no time to react, so you're like, oh, that just happened. Another scene, 2 more scenes that they had which were really good, these are pros, is after the people have broken in and they've been attacked by the animatronics, the babysitter who is actually trying to rob the place as well gets led away from Freddy's spirit, not Golden Freddy, and she gets led to the animatronic, and she's the one in the trailer where she grabs the chair and she goes up to the mouth, and all of a sudden this ghost hand comes out, grabs her, and then just poof, she gets bit, split in half. I'm not joking, just bit in half. And that is the best scene ever, because literally in my whole cinema it went and it just went quiet. That was so good. So now for my final rating, I know I was waffling a lot, I know I kind of jumped place to place, I know it's a bit messy. My final rating for this film kind of falls in with everyone else with this film at the moment, and I'm gonna have to say the FNAF movie, for a diehard fan like me, and for other people who are going to see it, 7 out of 10. And it's not being generous, it's not being harsh. I think that's kind of what everyone expected for the first attempt. FNAF is a very niche franchise, you know, it's very dear to my heart, so seeing it come to the big screen, maybe I'm giving it a bit of, like, you know, pity brownie points, but I think my final rating, which I'm comfortable with, is a 6.57, 7 out of 10. So there you go, there's my review on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, which I saw, 7 out of 10. You can tell me your opinion down below. Just remember, guys, any other opinion, don't bash it, don't give it hate, don't bully them for their opinion. If they said they didn't like it, they didn't like it. If they said they loved it, they loved it. And if you're in the middle like me, I'm kind of conflicted at the moment. You know, I loved it, but there were just some scenes that I just wish could have done better or could have gotten rid of. Or you know, there were things for the community that they wanted to see. You know, Matt, Pat, Corey, a bunch of Easter eggs that were just an homage to the community, and I think Scott did well. I didn't love the film, I liked it. Would I watch it again? Yes. Would I watch it excessively? No. But that's my opinion. Don't bash me for it. Don't bash others. And there you go. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button. We're close to 500. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.